overnight.
My grandfather still had.
What did
Well,
he
I know it hurt him. They picked. I know it still it hurt his feelings of self-worth an awful lot, but he would never lose. He was a very proud man. And he was killed in a car accident in the Orange Grove. Somebody T-boned him. And my grandmother was severely injured. It took 2 years for all of 2 years.
I found out today why the milk barns were burned down. I never could put it together. I didn't think people were that prejudiced Portuguese.
Oh.
And it wasn't the Portuguese.
Anybody that wasn't like them.
It was Spanish surnames because of the Spanish-American War.
Okay.
And there was so much resentment.
Animosity about that.
And they, Borges, N.C. Borges was the first dairy in the San Joaquin Valley. That's my great-great-grandfather. He had 3 barns burned. That's interesting.
Yeah.
He was not allowed on Main Street in Tulare. But that's the turn of the century.
We've come a long way.
Yeah. It's a neat history, though, because
everyone. The Irish were treated that way.
Yeah.
The Germans were treated that way.
Yeah.
The Italians were treated that way. The blacks have been treated that way.
And then when they get here, then they treat the next wave.
The next group that comes in. The Chinese were. We never talk about them, but they were horribly treated.
Yeah. They were actually, there was more Chinese slaves in the United States at the turn of the century than black slaves. And I didn't know that either.
Well, there were no black slaves at the turn of the century. They were freed in 1864. The Emancipation Proclamation freed all slaves.
Yeah, well, right before that then, when they're doing the railroads.
The railroads, yeah, that would be around the time of the railroads. Who was that?
Hey neighbor.
Which one?
The gal next door.
Oh, Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. But you'd be surprised at how many people cannot sit and talk about that without wanting to point fingers and relive the whole thing all over again. Instead of put it on an intellectual level, understanding that we're at where we're at today because those things happen. Go to Afghanistan and find out about, or Pakistan and find out about prejudice, or any place in the Middle East. Go to the old Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, those places, and find out about how the Serbs feel about the Croats and the Croats feel about the Macedonians.
Well, Shelley went on a trip to Czechoslovakia. It was a USO tour, Czechoslovakia, Poland, to get pottery.
Right, her and Carrie.
And she said, Casey, when she came back, she goes, Casey, it's amazing to see so many people in extreme wealth. And she goes, and I know this is an internal prejudice of myself, but it's just human. They're so beautiful, and they look just like you and I. He goes, and Shelley was basically saying that when you see the commercials of Africa and stuff, in the real extreme poor, you feel terrible for those people. But she goes, it was completely different when I saw black-haired, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white skin. And she goes, it was just amazing to see them in that extreme poor. Little kids just trying to sell anything they could. It's just natural. Like you said, it's just, things change.
Things change, and it takes time to bring about that change.
Yeah.
You know what? Governments have made the mistake many times of trying to impose a change.
Yeah.
And that won't work until the people are ready to accept it.
This is a weird observation. It's so weird. It's almost embarrassing. But if you see somebody walking down the street, you can tell if they're a surfer or not. Surfers just have a look about them.
I can tell that about people that have been in the
And
service.
you know what I think it is? They're all rich and wealthy and filthy rich because they have time to go out and go surfing. That's all they do.
A lot of them, it's that.
I mean, they all have perfect teeth. They're all blonde-haired, blue-eyed. You know, it's
Probably
crazy.
not so, but it's
There's a bunch
it's a generalization, and there's a root even for when we make generalizations like that. There is
They have a look.
there's a preponderance of things that make you turn to that, but it doesn't hold true completely through the segment of people. That's where prejudice is. You know, you pick up like specific behaviors of people, and then all of a sudden that whole race, you begin to identify anytime you think or you see somebody of that race that they're going to act that way. And it's not so.
No.
Now, probably you've had experience of some sort or another that they did act that way.
But not all of them.
But not all people. It's just like you and I.
They all look the same.
Yeah, there you go. The
The other
Chinese,
thing is-
they all look the same.
The other thing is you can tell certain strands or
Here's a
certain...
prejudicial kind of statement that brings that point to view. All Chinese are goops, but not all goops are Chinese. That's not a very nice way of saying something, but it brings home that point. It should have been that all Chinese are Asians and not all Asians are Chinese. But that's not the way it was said.
Yeah.
John, Big John.